everyone, and this is going to be the first episode, officially, of Christina Critiques. Now, unlike my previous video, I had talking points for that one, and I had a really relative idea of what I was going to be talking about, as well as a really well thought out, I've been thinking about it for a while, basically, and what exactly I wanted to say. So, unlike that video, today is going to be completely unscripted, and I'm going to try to keep it under 15 minutes and make sure that I don't drag it out too much. But if I repeat myself too much or sound boring, I apologize, because again, this is completely unscripted. So right into it, today we're going to be critiquing my own stuff, because again, I want to emphasize that critique is not a bad thing, it is a actually very good thing. I want to make sure that everyone understands that critique and self, examination of your art is a very good thing that's going to help you. So I want to start by doing that on myself, because I need to take what I say to heart. So I'm going to do my best, and today the piece I'm going to be looking at is this one. Now, I made this, I don't exactly remember when, but it was a while ago, and I feel this piece is fair to look at because it's new enough to where I can't, I just didn't think it'd be fair if I picked something that was too old, because of course then I could point out mistakes that anyone of course could point out. But this is fairly new, this is something I've only just made and that I see has a ton of issues, so I want to start off with this one because it's new and I'm repeating myself again. So I'm just going to get right into it. So first things first, the doorknobs. Now I didn't notice this when I created this, but I'm very inexperienced with backgrounds, and one of the major problems I have is that I don't really understand how layouts in rooms work, at least not well enough, obviously. So when I made this background, I didn't realize how high the doorknobs are, because normally when you have a door, the doorknob is down here because the door is much higher on the top, which is why this angle looks so strange. She's supposed to be incredibly large, but these doorknobs are incredibly high, which would either make him a really tiny person or these really enormous odd-looking doors. If I had brought these doorknobs down, then that would just create a whole different aspect of the picture. So first things first, doorknobs are wrong, and that's my first mistake, which I should have looked into and I should have known better. The second mistake I can see right away is that the floor and this paper right here are not blurred. This right here is a bottle. I intended it to give a sense of perspective, like you're looking into the room, and that there's a sense of everything's coming out at you, and I blurred this bottle because I felt that it would give that perspective. However, I didn't blur this paper, and I didn't blur the floor, and it doesn't make sense that in perspective this would be blurry, but this would not be. So again, another mistake of mine, I didn't blur that, and I didn't blur that, so that's another one. Another thing right away is just the perspective of this desk. I made it incredibly tiny because he and the desk are at the same level. And if he were to stand up and come over to this desk, this would be like an elementary school, really small, odd-looking desk. And it's not in perspective, at least not as well as it should be. The vanishing point for this piece is about here. And I did try and use perspective to the best of my ability, but I'm highly inexperienced with perspective. And see here, this door is also out of perspective, so that's another thing. But here you can see how not everything matches up perfectly, and I should have measured myself better. So again, this desk is completely out of perspective and too small. Now, tackling the major issue, her face. Now, her face was something that I had actually stewed upon for a while. I was quite happy with the look I had chosen for her, but now looking on it, this face that I've drawn for her has so many issues, with the mouth and the nose and the eyes, that I feel that she should be the primary focus of this critique I give myself. So I'm going to choose her face and look at that specifically, because her face just has so many problem issues that it requires that I take this and I just look at it on its own. So let's straighten this out, because I feel one of the reasons I screwed up so badly with her face is I had it tilted the entire time, and that was a mistake. I should have worked out her face better. I should have had it, sorted out with her proportions and everything before I tilted it, because it's obvious that I tilted it when you look at it and you can see all the issues she has. So I'm going to quickly erase this so that we don't have those lines there, and we can just focus 100% on her face. Now, one issue that I've always taken with other art pieces that I was careless in this piece and then I applied to something, even though it's something I criticize all the time, is the shape of her face. when you do a face, right, you begin by doing the circle, and then you do the sides of the face, and then you make the jaw. That's usually how you draw a face, so at least that's how I do it. That's how I was taught. And then you do a cross somewhere in the middle of the face, like this, and then you were to do the eyes on the level of the cross, the nose somewhere here, the ears were to match the level of the eyebrow, and then the bottom of the ears come down to the bottom of the nose, and then you have the mouth somewhere in the middle, giving enough room for the chin. Something like that. The issue here is that I've basically taken her face and made this really awkward kind of giant V shape, which would make her head super large, which in general is such an awkward thing to look at, and it doesn't look pleasant, and I've just lost my canvas, and it's just so awkward to look at, and I thought about cutting down the head, and I thought it would look less awkward, but it still does. Looks like an alien head, and to be fair, yes, she's an alien, but not that kind of alien. So you see how the shape is so weird, and it looks awkward, and it's just like such a weird vase kind of shape. Like if you turn them upside down, you can see that like this one is much more evened out, while this one's more like a cone or like a vase, and it's just really awkward. I should have considered that. I wanted her to make her face elongated and elegant, but instead I made it more like an alien-shaped head, so that was a mistake that I should have considered, and I'm going to definitely consider that. So the first major thing on her head is, of course, the head shape, so. Okay, second thing would be the nose. I feel I made the nose super tiny. Like, when I look at it now, if I were to do this over, I would definitely make her nose much larger. The teeny nose really doesn't make sense. And gems never have any ears that are, like, specifically specified, but that's never stopped me from changing the style of things, and I probably should have emphasized that the ears should be there. So, again, no ears, and the nose is completely wrong, so I should fix that. And also, I've been studying noses for the past since then, because I realized this piece had so many problem issues with it, so I decided to take it upon myself to practice noses, and looking back on this nose, it has so many, like, issues with it. Like, when you draw a nose, the nose has the slope, and then the piece of tissue that comes off of the nose, the part where it connects to the face, the actual nostril, and then the flap that comes over and onto the nose. Now, this is, of course, not a perfect nose. There's many people who draw it much better than I do, but that's just the way it is. It should look like a kind of jasper gem shape of a nose. Not quite this arched, because you don't have your nostrils come down this far, so somewhere like something like that, basically. And I didn't do that here. I made it quite tiny. I made it very odd, and I think the tininess of it throws off her face entirely. And if I had actually taken the time to, like, measure out her face, I think it would have been much better. Another major problem issue is absolutely the mouth. The mouth is something that let me write that down real quick. Her mouth is something that is really awkward, and that I don't know what I was thinking when I did it. I'm quite inexperienced when it comes to doing lips. Lips is always something I've struggled with. I actually quite avoided doing it for most of my young drawing life. I realize now that was a mistake. I should never avoid things I struggle with. I should tackle them, and absolutely lips are one of those things that I just really struggle with, and I can't do properly. I do need to practice on them more, and I have been practicing on them more, but still I do struggle with it, and I definitely need to. This picture shows how much I struggle with it because of how awkward that lip shape is. It's like she's got like a freaking beak mouth, like a pterodactyl. Like if she were to turn around, you'd see her face be something like this, where there's like the teeny nose and then the big old lips, and the no jaw, just big old beak bird lips. And if I were to redraw this, I would definitely change the mouth shape. I would make it like a more natural shape. I would not make it so odd, and I would definitely not like make her expression so strange. I feel that the strangest of her expression, like it takes away from her character, because I wanted her to have a odd but graceful, clumsy but like interested, like intrigued personality, sort of like someone who's been introduced to something completely new. Oops, sorry about that. Someone called me. Anyway, This is not the perfect mouth shape either. Again, I really do have to practice with lips. It's something that I struggle with, and that it's much easier to point out in other people when they've fallen than when you yourself have fallen, because I can look at my own mistakes and have a much harder time struggling pointing out what's wrong with them than I would someone else's. But absolutely, this mouth is a big no. It's a huge problem, and I just overall, I should have taken more care when writing out, when like outlining this face, because there's so many things wrong with it. And now the biggest problem area, her eyes. I don't think I've created such an awkward eye shape in so long. Like in a sketch this looks okay, but once you detail it out, it's just so awkward. And these side eyelashes, I don't know what I was thinking. They're really bad, and I should have taken more care to actually make this eye something impressive, because the eyes are what draw you in. When you look at someone, you look at their eyeballs, or at least I do. I always pay attention to people's eyes. That's the thing I remember most about people. If I were to describe people I know, people I love, I would always describe them with their eyes first. I would never describe anything else aside from their eyes. It's because it's just something I do. And for me, I just really regret not having taken the time to actually do these properly. If I were to redo this and do it better, I would probably take this and make her eyes something more like this, more of a natural shape, but still kind of stylized. I wanted her to have this kind of droop, like she was quite sad or quite tired or quite just worn out. Someone who's just like relieved but tired and sad. I've always also had like a struggle with eyelashes, because I don't actually practice them. For many years, I never even drew eyelashes on characters, because I just didn't do it, and I thought that it was unnecessary and it looked girly and I didn't like doing it. But then I realized how much potential I was missing out by not like actually practicing eyelashes, and I'm paying for that now. I realize now that many things that I completely avoided practicing because I just didn't like practicing them, I wish I had practiced and I've studied, and now I'm actually taking the time to study those things, so I'm very grateful for that, and I'm hoping that I can apply that to other drawings in the future. So yeah, the eyes, I definitely regret not having taken more time to create them better and map them better than this, especially the eyebrows. I've always said to people that eyebrows are something that people overlook when it comes to expression and when it comes to, creating a character's like whole face. Like the eyebrows really bring everything together, but with this character I completely withdrew that. And it's okay, you can have characters without eyebrows or with very small eyebrows, but in this case I feel like I definitely wasted that opportunity. I feel I could have done much more with them, but I didn't, and that is something I definitely wish I could have done over. So yeah, basically, and the eyes are no such issue. So basically the whole face. I think I've basically said the whole face is bad, which is true. The neck is the one thing that I don't feel is that wrong, although I'm sure someone could point out how it is. I've always had an issue with necks, because if anyone who's been with me for a while remembers, I used to have a giraffe neck problem, which is where I'd make the necks ridiculously long. And I do feel I've, progressed from there, that I'm not quite as bad anymore, but definitely I still have issues with it. And I'm glad that people have thus far, put up with me and stuck around and actually stayed with me and given me time to improve and become a better, artist and recover from those mishaps, and that's something I'm quite grateful for. And one thing in general that I feel I should have taken more care with is just the emotion of this piece. Like, I feel that, like, with the type of emotion I was trying to convey was lost because of how eager I was to simply make this scene. I had realized that I'd become very experienced with backgrounds, so I wanted to make one of those cool backgrounds where you kind of have this, like, zoom effect, or where you just get lost in the background and how beautiful it looks. And I've always admired those kind of pictures because they're just so gorgeous, and you look at them and all you want to do is just stare at them for many hours and examine every bit of the room. Like, you feel you're there, you can almost smell the atmosphere and feel the emotion in the room. That's something I've always envied and I wanted to create for myself. But I feel that I have not come to that level, and I got ahead of myself and I created this and I thought, oh, it looks so good, but looking back on it, I should have taken much more time to calculate, especially with her face. And it's quite embarrassing that something that I feel that I've, like, come to understand as good as I have, which is faces, and then I fail like this, where I make this piece where it's quite inexperienced and very, it's just very rushed in general. Like, if I were to show you the sketch that I did, like, in the speed paint process, which is up on my channel, I spent most, I completely cut out the sketching process, because most of it was just kind of flipping it around and kind of putting it in there and being like, that looks good, that looks good. And this is one of the few pieces I keep around to remind myself not to do that. I shouldn't rush, I shouldn't push through things, I should actually take care and actually, like look at what I'm doing and actually think about it and really look at what I'm creating and think about all the details and everything, and not get so excited to create something that I really regret later on. And I don't completely regret this piece. I feel that the lighting looks okay. I mean, it's not perfect, of course. There's like a lot of localized lighting that I think is a problem that I've always had an issue with, but that's still something I can repair in the future and that I hope to fix. Stop it, phone. Stop it, not a good time. And other things like that. This mouth is still bad. Point is, lots of issues, lots of things, and those would be the things I would change about this piece. I am running low on time, which I promised I would make this video under 15 minutes, and I have broken that promise by making it 16 minutes, but that was for the sake of what I had to do to explain what was wrong with this piece, which you can see there was clearly a lot. But, yeah, well, thank you for all for watching. Again, I understand that this might come off as me being extremely self-loathing or extremely insecure about what I created, and I would like to just specify that no, while I do have a lot of regrets about this piece, I look back on what I create as building blocks. This was a bad building block, I look back on it, and I'm going to build on top of this and build up something taller and better, and use this as a lesson. Use it as a lesson so that I can look back on this and really learn from it and not get discouraged by it. And I want everyone to do the same. I want everyone to be able to look at their stuff and really critique it and rip it apart and then look back on it and say, yeah, I can make something better, and then make something better. And not feel bad about your stuff getting criticized because deep down you know I'm always going to make something better. And it's not a big deal. This is just one. I can always make something better and always make something more. Oh man, those lips are ugly. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Please tune in next week if you guys wish to submit your art. There's instructions in the description. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.